Welcome back. Friday, May 15th, 2026. I am Seth Leibsohn. Happy Friday. We will wrap up the week here with a robust political discussion with one of our political consultant experts, George Khalaf. We try and do that every Friday with him. He is also a candidate for office, running for Arizona State House of Representatives in Legislative District 3. You can go to his website to help out if you'd like, georgekhalaf.com. Khalaf is Khalaf. We'll talk a little bit about the campaign, but we're also going to exploit his expertise as a consultant and a pollster with the Resolute Group and Data Orbital. George, good to see you. How are you, man?
I'm good. That's good. It's been a long week, but
you're the tiredest I've seen you in a long time, I have to say, if that's okay.
Well, you've already said it, so it has to be okay.
Yeah.
I am a little bit tired. It's been a long week, and I've got some. I've got another, at least one event. I've got 3 tomorrow. I've got 1 on Sunday, which is rare that I have things on Sunday. So there's a lot going on.
Good.
That's all right.
It was a delight. David and I got to go to one of your campaign events earlier in the week. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good. It's been a good week with the campaign. We started off with a really big endorsement from Turning Point Action.
That's
so I'm
important.
very happy and proud of that. And that's added on to a long list of law enforcement groups and conservative leaders and elected officials and all of those good things. And I've had just a lot of events. Like I said, at least 1 to 2 every day. And yesterday I had 4.
That's wonderful. I want you tired. I want you busy and tired. I don't know if Brittany will agree with me. Brianna, sorry, I don't know if Brittany works for us. If Brianna will agree with me or not, but I want you tired.
I mean, look, there's only one way to do this, and there's only one way we should desire to do this. We should have so much joy in desiring to serve the great people of Arizona that we would run a race that yields us tired, not because we don't enjoy what we're doing, but because we give it our all, right? I mean, where do we get that saying from, giving it your all? Mm-hmm. That means that you run through the finish line, however you want to say the metaphor, and I've been proud to be doing that this entire time. It is crazy to think, though, that I launched in November, and we're already in May, so 6 months, and there's only 2 months to go. It feels like yesterday in a way that I launched, even though so much has happened.
And there's only 2 months to go. Wow,
2 months and 5 days.
That is a final. Man, it went fast for me watching you. It's gone fast. GeorgeKhalaf.com if you want to help his campaign out. We'll come back to the campaign a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about some Arizona politics too. I want to start with you on some national stuff, though, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
Interesting poll I see a lot of people talking about came out this week from a group that, this world, I don't know who to believe and who not, called Atlas Intel, that news reports are saying is a credible organization.
They are.
Okay.
They are.
And it looks interesting because for the first time in the presidential sweepstakes for 2028, it has Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez very much in the lead. She's coming in at 26%. Right behind her, surprisingly, is Pete Buttigieg at 22%, Gavin Newsom 21%, Kamala Harris at 12%. Now, up until now, I thought Kamala Harris was leading in the polls, and maybe it's an outlier, but maybe it's also instructive about where the Democratic Party is, that AOC is on top.
It is very instructive. And look, I think the Democratic Party is much less unified than the Republican Party,
okay.
Meaning if we were in a parliamentary system, like many places around the world, the Democratic Party would probably be like 3 or 4 or 5 smaller parties. Okay. The Republican Party may split into a couple ways, but there's a much more unification in the direction of the party. And AOC obviously represents, yes, a young faction, but an exceptionally progressive faction, right? A faction that genuinely does believe socialism is good for this nation. It genuinely believes that religion directly stands in the way of this socialist takeover and a whole bunch of other things, and they wear it proudly. They don't pretend, in direct contrast to democratic elites, if we call them, and the people that are connected to Third Way, which you and I have talked about, which are consultants that are begging and pleading for Democrats to be more normal, to stop talking about regendering children and all of those crazy things. And AOC is not that. Ironically, though, Pete Buttigieg is the super progressive, what I would consider more milquetoast version of AOC, but still very progressive, right? But the difference is he's a white man who was a mayor of a Midwestern town.
And has zero African-American support, which is interesting, too.
Yes, yeah. And obviously it's always a huge block. And then Gavin Newsom, who's absolutely destroyed his state. But nonetheless, I don't know if you saw some new numbers, just as a quick diversion on California. Apparently California early ballot returns are much larger than they were in the last gubernatorial election. And while Democrats are still in the first place lead, Republicans have a much greater turn-in rate than they did 4 years ago.
Oh,
so
no
that'll
kidding.
be very interesting to watch. Again,
you think that'll have impact on the mayor's race or the governor's race more?
I was
talking to someone about Spencer Pratt's tearing it up, and everyone's loving it, and yet people are saying and it's still no.
Yeah. I mean, it's someone who I know is very cynical. Is like, everyone's loving it, but are there enough Angelinos that are loving it? It's a bunch of people outside of Los Angeles that are loving it, and so are there enough people there that are fed up? So, anyways, just at that version, that's very interesting about California. But for Gavin Newsom to then be in the 20s, so think about it. We have 60% of the Democratic Party, very progressive, but very different manifestations of progressivism, and actually coastal, right? So you have one from the east, one from the west, one from the Midwest, all representing different, different factions. And look, I personally, I think you and many of us Republicans would prefer that Kamala Harris be the nominee because she's just an absolute hot mess, to use a technical phrase. But frankly, most of those candidates, I think, are. I mean, look, we need to take them seriously. AOC is someone who I do take seriously because she elicits a very.
It's not a one-off. I mean, when you get her, when you get Mamdani, when you get the mayor of Seattle, his name I'm blanking on, when you see this tide of young progressives or really socialist Marxists, when you see the popularity of probably the nominee for the Democratic Senate race in Michigan is of that ilk, the Hassan Piker wing of the party, it's to be taken very seriously.
Yeah, and then you see, because I don't think we've talked since then, that Chuck Schumer's handpicked person in Maine stepped aside for the much more
governor.
Yes, the sitting governor. Yeah, that's a good reminder. The sitting governor stepped aside for
a national socialist.
Someone who had to cover up a Nazi SS tattoo on his body.
Yeah.
I mean that is the Democratic Party of today. I don't want to say the Democratic Party of tomorrow. It's the Democratic Party of today. It's where we are at. And they are in charge because people. I mean, there were sitting senators that supported him, and Schumer lost that fight, so to speak.
Tim Walz went out and campaigned for this guy. Plantner is his name.
Plantner.
And so this is a party now of Democratic Socialists and National Socialists. Now, it's interesting you said, did you mean to put as much weight on the way you said that it may not be the Democratic Party of tomorrow?
I just mean that it's not the Democratic Party of tomorrow in the sense of they are already here today. It's not like they're going to be socialists down the line. The socialism takeover of the Democratic Party has already occurred. Not that I think they're going to get any less socialist in the future. No, I think they're actually going to quadruple down.
That's what I've been saying on air is I think this country is probably going to still be a two-party country, but I don't think the party will be the Democratic Party. I think it will be the Republican Party, and I think it'll be the Republican Party versus basically the DSA. I think that will be the alternative party. I see nothing that shows me otherwise.
If they were going to do anything different, they would have left 2024, and they would have made substantial differences, and you wouldn't be seeing leaders that compared to, and he's not in any way moderate, but you wouldn't see people like Barack Obama and others on the left, even African-American leaders that have tended to be the quote-unquote more moderate leaders of the Democratic Party, quadrupling down.
Right. And they're not denouncing any
the progressivism. Exactly. Not only are they quadrupling down, they're not denouncing even the most outlandish things, like a Plattner who 12 years
that would be
ago,
an easy one.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
100%. So they would have needed to make dramatic changes since the election, and not only have they not, they have leaned in.
Now, the same poll did something else as well that was new. It had Rubio at 45 and Vance at 30. Obviously, this is way too early, but Rubio has become an interesting person in the administration. He's kind of created he's now representing an interesting cultural meme of himself, the popularity of which you don't see very often. John Podhoretz was making the point, you can't really think of anyone from the Obama or Biden administration that was like that. Maybe at one point, for different reasons, Rumsfeld was that way in the first, but you rarely see someone so iconic. As Rubio has.
I mean, Rubio's done it in his own way, and I think Rubio's a little bit more, I don't want to say surprising, but different because he is the Secretary of State. He's not the VP, and that was not his personality just in general.
Right.
But both him and Vance, frankly, have these very memified personas online that they both own. Yep. The two big ones is the heavier version of Vance that he always posts, and then Rubio essentially doing all of the jobs. And the other day he walked into the press room. Right. Pretending. So it's very interesting how they. We should definitely pick that up about kind of the future of the Republican Party.
Okay, we'll do that. And if Rubio were the nominee and AOC were the nominee, you'd have a Latino and a Latina for people who care about that stuff. All right, George Khalaf is my guest. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Seth Leibsohn Show. The heat is here, so I want you to know about Klein Heating and Cooling. The cooling side of Klein Heating and Cooling. They have all your solutions, flat rate pricing, no surprise upcharges. They will proudly install Train, Ruud, Carrier, other HVAC units. But even if you don't need a new unit, they will service all makes. They will service all sizes. They will do residential. They will do commercial. So check them out at kleinheatingcooling.com. Klein is spelled Klein. kleinheatingcooling.com. No job is too big or too small. Call Mr. Klein. I know him well. Good man. You can trust and rely on him. kleinheatingcooling.com. George Khalaf is my guest. Did you want to say something more about the Rubio Vance thing?
I just wanted to say it is early. I don't think that Rubio has necessarily leg up on Vance. I want to say this. We have two men who have 75%, at least at this point, who are open about their faith. Both have been quoted numerous times from Charlie's memorial. Both who for sure have differences, especially on foreign policy, which that's not the point of sort of where I'm going is the differences, but have a lot of perspective for where we want to go. You've seen me at a lot of events. I talk a lot about Republicans needing to have a vision for the future. Both of them do. Again,
they're vision candidates, right?
Does every voter agree with every aspect of it? That's not the point.
No,
the point is they are looking forward, and they have done really well in an administration that we all know that they sometimes have disagreed with the thing that they have to kind of embody. That happens sometimes because you work. They work at the pleasure of the President of the United States. So it is his direction.
And these are former senators who have represented their own views.
We know their votes, but they do it in a really artful way, and they toggle up and down about what they're more outspoken of and not. And so I just wanted to point that out that as Republicans, we always should be optimistic because we are the party of truth. But we should be optimistic about 2028, no matter what happens in the midterms. Right? Like I said, every election has to be taken on its own. Remember 2006, that was supposed to spell the calamity of the Republican Party, and 2008, and then 2012, and then look at where we got to in 2016 and 2024. So no matter what happens in this midterm, we have a lot to look forward to, and we really have good leaders coming up. And for me as a Christian, talking about your faith is a big part of it, and I'm grateful that we have so many Republican leaders willing to do so.
You mentioned the midterms. I've been dying to play this for you. No surprise, but this is Harry Enton at CNN, and I'd love you to weigh in on it. Can I? You may have seen it.
But I think this poll serves as a big-time reality check for Democrats, and that is it ain't over yet, especially with the redistricting when we look ahead to the 2026 race for Congress. You would have thought that the Democrats' lead would expand on the generic congressional ballot. It didn't happen. Look, in March, Democrats were up by 6 points. Look at this now. Democrats are up by 3 points, and I want you to note the yellow lettering. No clear leader. It is within the margin of error. So despite all of the talk about Donald Trump's unpopularity, the fact is Republicans very much remain in the game when it comes to the congressional midterms, which are...
Everyone's been telling me we're going to get soaked in the midterms. It doesn't look it.
No, it doesn't.
And can I throw one other ingredient into this pot for you to take on? I was told that when there are wave elections, you usually see the party that is going to create the wave is at least in double digits. They're up 3.
I don't know. Again, I'm going to say this publicly, and who knows? Down the line, I can be proven wrong. It feels unlikely that we're going to have a really huge wave elections anymore because we are just too divided. No matter what, there are large segments of our population that will never vote for the other party. And I'll say this. I mean, you count me as one of them. I can count you. I know without even asking you as one of them. We will never, ever, ever, no matter what, no matter what the choice is, no matter how many disagreements we have, I will never do it. period, hard stop. And there are tens of thousands and millions around the nation that feel the same way. And so that leads to the fact that massive wave swings are really unlikely. Two, that the Democratic Party, based on from literally 5 minutes ago when we were talking, have dramatic differences on key issues to the average American. And then there are election fundamentals like redistricting. And this is what I keep trying to tell people. Nothing in politics, nothing in life is static. 3 weeks ago, literally, if you'd heard most commentators, all was lost, the midterm was over, and redistricting Democrats absolutely ate the lunch of the Republicans, and Republicans we lost. It literally took 2 weeks, Seth, between the Supreme Court decision in Virginia, the Supreme Court decision in the U.S. Supreme Court, between the results in Indiana, between. All of a sudden, people are like, "No, we're gonna take this up. We're gonna fight fire with fire." And then all of a sudden, now we've gone from a potential 1 to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 Democrat seat pickup. On the low end, it could be 6 to 7, even with headwinds, because there are just fundamental districts that will not elect a Democrat.
George, something's going on, though, nationally to me and by my mindset. And you will probably tell me that you can't think of politics this way, but if I can try it anyway. You pick up any vibe or paper or commentary, you hear about the unpopularity of Trump. You hear about dissatisfaction with the economy, dissatisfaction with Iran, which I guess by any count is our most major foreign policy engagement right now. The affordability crisis and gas prices, which are built into that but are in its own way its own thing. And the Democrats are only up 3? Mm-hmm. That is astounding to me. It just is astounding to me that they're not up 13.
Yeah. If you were gonna, if we were gonna sort of believe the broad spectrum of anecdotal information, look, we're gonna have, and I'm gonna tease this because I was told I'm able to. We're embarking upon a very robust research to bring it down to Arizona, of independents in Arizona, to help answer these questions.
Oh, okay.
To answer and to help us understand what do they feel. How do they think? Because again, we know where the parties are at. Again, bleed a couple percent here and there. Bleed meaning that party votes. Republicans vote for a Democrat, Democrat for a Republican. It's going to be super rare. No matter what the polls say, we're not going to have 15% of Republicans voting for a Democrat, right? Not with the likely nominees that we have. And so with that in mind, independents are a big deal. But these people are still humans that live in the state of Arizona. They see and they understand what's happening. And so we are going to have a lot more insights here. But look, we are seeing very real, incredible candidates around the country. I just saw an ad this morning from Oregon that was attached to a survey. I don't know how credible the survey is, but a Republican, his name is Dudley, who's a former player that is running for office against Kotek. But look, Democrats have made it easy in a lot of these places. Spencer Pratt, you and I talked about it off air. Why? Because, again, I'm not sure if these people can win, and maybe they still lose. But there's a much more cohesiveness based on the absolute absurdity of the progressive left to say, no, I will give you the juxtaposition. I will show you exactly what we don't want, and I will show you exactly what we can't have. But then it is up to those voters. That is what politics happens. You get these two options. Voters in Los Angeles may want more of the same crap that they've been getting.
Why?
Because they are so, to the earlier point, they are so ideologically tied in. Yeah. They would sell the future of their city, a lot of them natives that they love and have an attachment to, for the sake of political alignment along ideological lines. Yeah. And that just goes to show you another data point as to why we're unlikely to have huge wave elections.
Okay, so you said this sentence very clearly. There are millions and millions of Republicans that will never vote for a Democrat. Are there millions and millions of is it same the other way around? Are Democrats as wedded to their party as we are to ours, or is it more likely that a Democrat will vote for a Republican than a Republican would vote for a Democrat?
Let's dig into it a little bit. It's not as
okay.
Yeah, it's not as
George Khalaf is my guest. By the way, a candidate in his own right for Legislative District 3, State House of Representatives. You can go to his website, help him out, or learn more about him, georgekhalaf.com. Easy enough. Khalaf, by the way, Khalaf. We'll be right back. Oh, that allows me to do something I wanted to do with George for fun. Can I interject a fun thing with you?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I hope it's not a quiz about music.
It's a quiz.
Okay.
It's a quiz. But there might be right answers and wrong answers.
All right, let's see.
So after much lobbying here, all my lobbying activity is inner office.
Yeah,
I'm not a registered lobbyist anywhere.
Well versed in your inter-office lobbying. Okay.
So I was lobbying that we become like every other normal office I visited that has snacks available in the kitchen and then in the break room. So I gave a list of 5 items to the person who does procurement around here, and I'm curious to know if you would add something else to it that I'm missing. Teriyaki flavored beef and turkey jerky, cheddar cheese slices white, Mexican Coke. That's what made me think of this. The kind in a bottle with real cane sugar, salted pistachios, and Nestle chocolate flavoring for chocolate milk. It's a pretty good list, wouldn't that be a happy office?
I think on your drink choices, I can't remember the last time. I don't really drink Coke, and I can't remember the last time I had chocolate milk on occasion. On your food choices, I think it's a fairly
protein.
It's a sort of fairly predictable. It is, and in line with what I would request in the office. I have those same battles, but also amazingly,
you're in charge. How do you have
office, I lose the battle. We get all kinds of snacks, like fruit snacks and stuff. I'm like, at one point we had fruit snacks and Rice Krispies. I'm like, we're not going on a 4th grade field trip, so
right.
I at least get one snack that I want, or I'll buy protein bars and I'll hide them in places that only I can find them.
But the most important thing you said is, yet you are one more office that does provide snacks. That's all I'm asking.
We do provide.
That's all
snacks.
I'm asking, is that we return to normalcy over here at 960. I asked you a question before the break. You're talking about how hardened the Republican vote is for Republicans that are very unlikely a Republican would vote for a Democrat. And I asked you if that's true the other way, the likelihood of a Democrat.
It is, but I do want to, I guess, maybe give a bit of a caveat. There's a realignment, and both parties are seeing it, and it slows and increases. This is what I mean. There were a lot of Republicans that were sort of white, college-educated, that in the Trump era have departed because they typically agreed with the Republican Party only on tax and business issues, like literally just those couple, but almost everything else, but we didn't focus on the other stuff. And now that we do focus on these other things that are very important to me and you and millions of other people, they have become Democrats or independents. And there are some Democrats that were ancestrally Democrats. Often they are people of faith. They are places where, well, my granddad and my dad and my granddad and so on and so forth are Democratic, but the Democratic Party has lost me. And you've seen even elected officials. So with those types of movements aside, yes, the same applies to both parties. We are very dug in. And look, Seth, now that I'm running for office and I'm some sort of public figure, I suppose, I'm running ads and I post things online. And there are people that say really crazy, stupid things, as you can imagine, of what happens online, not just on X, on Meta. And people are intense just because they don't know anything about me, right? Or they can tell I'm a husband. I've got children.
Getting hate?
Oh yeah, I'm getting hate, but it's just like, oh, you worship the whatever derogatory thing about Trump, or someone was telling me as a Christian. This one is funny. Maybe we want to spend some time unpacking it. He said I should look to James Tallarico as to the hypocrisy of Republican Christians, and that I should be more like him, which we could spend literally an hour about how James Tallarico, the nominee in Texas, his theology is not only not Christian, it is so anti-Christian. But there are people that just because I am a certain party, they don't even want to look beyond that. They will not contemplate it. So we know that that's the We know that that's the case.
The Tallarico thing is interesting. I'm not sure what the Democrats are trying to do here because, God, it's just so weird and hard to get your head around. A party that tells you how much they don't want Christian nationalism and faith in politics and that sort of thing. But then they go into, I don't know, do you call Texas the Bible Belt? It's certainly a red state. They go into a place like Texas and run someone who definitively wants to wear his religion on his sleeve. Now, obviously, I think it's a gospel of nonsense, if I'm allowed to say that. But it's a weird thing that they don't want Christian nationalism, but here and there they'll play that game. It's a weird thing to me.
Yeah, I mean, I have a theory on this. I think they're hedging their bet. I would want to give a little bit more. I think he is a hedge that certain Democrats are trying to do for the future. Is
Warnock something
party.
like that too?
A little bit, even though he's a little bit.
A little bit. But he's a preacher man too, though, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Okay, George Khalaf is my guest. GeorgeKhalaf.com, KHALAF. We'll talk a little bit about religion and politics. I actually want to do that. I'm going to do that with you and the rabbi a little bit later, too, as well. We'll be right back. Coming to you from the YRefi.com studios, YRefi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others will not touch. They'll provide you with a custom loan payment based on your ability to pay. And guess what? YRefi doesn't care what your credit score is. So if your private student loan is keeping you up at night and ruining your life, it doesn't have to. Just give YRefi a call at 888-YRefi-85, 888-YRefi-85. Or check them out online at yrefi.com, YREFY.com. George Khalaf is my guest. We're both kind of transfixed by a story of these Waymos that I'm not sure where this was, but a whole team of them. I don't know, these driverless cars. Looks like it might be
Atlanta.
Is it Atlanta? About 30 of them just kind of went wild. They just kind of started invading a cul-de-sac. I've had this thought that I've used Waymo. I like them. I'm a fan, and there's a lot to recommend them. But I have had the thought that how hard would it be for, I don't know, China, let us say, to program these things to invade us and just, be the first line of an invasion. Do you lie awake at night ever thinking about these? Probably not. You don't think about the things I think about.
No,
but you're glad I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, no, that's not true. We could do a whole show about weird.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I'll tell you one thing. I grew up at my age. I watched iRobot more than once, and the Will Smith movie, and so I don't know.
I was talking about that movie, and it's based on an Isaac Asimov novel, iRobot. Because my concern is actually less that robots will take us over, but more that we're turning ourselves into robots as humans. That's my real worry. My real worry is
that is an existential comment if I ever heard one.
Well, I really do.
True.
I do think there's something about it, the way we are neutralizing feelings and emotions, the way we are medicalizing them and psychologizing normal human emotions on the one hand, and on the other, how we are turning ourselves into automatons with the devices and the screens. And I do worry about the human condition very much right now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you're not wrong there.
Another conversation for another time. I forgot what we were going to bounce back on.
Religion and politics.
Religion,
We ended on
right,
the James Tallarico thing.
Right. You had a theory on it.
Yeah. So look, I think they're hedging their bet. Meaning, what if? And this is what I think they're thinking as progressives. Like, what if we have to embrace faith in a way? What if we can't just be totally anti-Christian? Like, we know that there's something happening there, and so let's run our own version of Christianity to try to win people over. Yeah. Now, we obviously know the problem with that because their version of Christian churches are in an immense decline. Why? Because
It's not real.
It's not real. They're not offering anything different than the world.
Right.
And so James Tallarico, if I had extra time in my life or if I decided I wanted to make money by getting clicks online, I could go toe-to-toe day in and day out with the craziness that he is spewing, especially because someone like him to me is very dangerous. Why? Because he uses the word, he uses biblical truth or his perceived version of it and then twists it and perverts it and takes things out of context and projects things about Christ that is not true. And so I find that especially offensive as a Christian and as someone who actually does believe in biblical truth. And so we need to be very wary. It's easier.
Well, it would be the most offensive thing in the world because it's taking God's name in vain, it seems to me. It's a version of that.
100%. And I've had robust discussions with individuals who try to use Scripture to support abortion, to support gender reassignment surgery, to support transgenderism, to support
immigration is a big one, or used to be.
It's not. I think it's just so harmful. But I think they're hedging their bet. I think that's what's happening. But I don't think that's the future of the Democratic Party. I think the future of the Democratic Party is completely anti-faith, completely enamored. And the god of the future of the Democratic Party is progressivism. It's socialism, and that's it. I don't think there's another option.
Well, I think you're right, truly. And anyone who spends any time reading what the DSA candidates and their affinity for Marx will understand that religion is the enemy of it's the opiate of the masses, as Marx put it. And you cannot find me one of their dream palace countries that was friendly to religion. We're just talking too nicely about China, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, given the repression that they engage in against religious adherence and religious practice or religious faith. But, okay, again, our own problems. I've been on this kick all week, George. There was an interesting op-ed in the Washington Post I should ask Alush about this too. There was an interesting op-ed in the Washington Post by an Ivy League professor from Princeton earlier in the week. I don't know if you saw it. He claims himself to be a non-believer, so he's not coming at this from a perspective of faith in his own right. And he said increasing numbers of his students and other Ivy League school students are totally unfamiliar with the Ten Commandments, totally unrecognizable to his students at Princeton and other Ivy Leagues. And George, this two thoughts on this I'll throw at you. One is this couldn't have happened by accident. That's point one. Point two is this spells huge disaster because the Ten Commandments, or what political philosophers call the revelation part of Western civilization. It's revelation and reason. Western civ is the marriage of revelation and reason, sometimes referred to as Jerusalem and Athens, political philosophy and biblical truth. If you take out one of those, if you take out one of the two building blocks of Western civilization, you are raising a generation and a future of this country that will be alien to its own civilization and really, frankly, alien to civility. I think we've seen a lot of that with college students, even at the Ivy Leagues. But boy, the Ten Commandments, George. Yeah. The Ten Commandments.
Seth, our opponents have been hard at work to dismantle the very fabrics of Judeo-Christian principles, of Western ideals. Mm-hmm. And do you know why they're extra angry? I know you know. Rhetorical question. They're extra angry because not only have they been found out, not only have they been exposed, not only has a light been shown, but they have lost momentum. But they had been hard at work for decades and decades, and they thought they were going to get away with it, and they almost did. Sincerely, I mean this. They almost did. And they kind of technically did in other parts of the world, like in Western Europe. Mm-hmm. And look at even there what's happening. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Look, I'm a political nerd, so I follow politics many places. I know many people in the United States haven't been paying attention to what happened in the United Kingdom, where Nigel
Farage's party,
who is a known commodity in conservative circles in America, absolutely. I mean, it was an absolute wave, to use that word, a wave in their local elections, and teeing them up to likely be the next prime minister. And they're freaking out in the United Kingdom. So much so that Scotland is like using Nigel Farage as a reason to try to go for their independence again from the United Kingdom. Say, oh my God, no, they're too crazy. We have to maintain ourselves. And so I say all that to say they got really dangerously close. And we stopped them. And I want to be able to, you always ask me for a last word. And in the last segment, be able to sort of give now the reinvigorated call to arms of like, okay, now that we've stopped them, the consistent reminder, it's not something that I haven't said before. What is it now that we have to do to continue then pushing the momentum in our direction? Because if we're not careful, we could then lose it again. This is not a slam dunk by any stretch.
Is the liberal left-wing Democratic Party war against ESAs part of this, by the way?
I mean, of course, because they're going to the root of what? That they're attacking not ESAs.
Ten Commandments.
They're going to the root of attacking parental rights.
Yeah.
That's what they're attacking. They're not attacking ESAs. They're attacking parents' abilities to educate their children in truth. Okay. That's what they're going after.
All right. We'll pick up on that when we come right back with George Khalaf. GeorgeKhalaf.com. George Khalaf has been my guest this hour. Thank you, George. We love having you in on Fridays and kind of giving us political wrap-up thoughts for the week, talking about a lot of things. And I asked you just as we were heading to the break, I know you want to give a generalized message, and you can in a sec, but I can't open the Arizona Republic a single day without seeing another story on Democrats attacking what they call the voucher program. We would call them ESAs, et cetera. I think it's got to be part and parcel, yes, of what you said, and you were right to say it, the attack on parental rights. There's no question that's part and parcel of the progressive dream and agenda. But also something about these schools, which increasingly are teaching the good stuff, are teaching the kinds of things that we grew up with when education was so much better. I don't know if you saw in the New York Times this week, over 80% of school districts in the country, public schools and districts in the country, have students falling behind at grade level, falling behind 1 and 2 grade levels. It's a huge problem because they're not smart, they're not getting smart, but also what they are getting is crap. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, Look, our Empowerment Scholarship Account program is under attack because of its value. Its value to children, its value in the way that it empowers parents, its value in pushing against what the progressive left wants to see that they do through the teachers unions, which is control the future generation. Because if you can control the future generation, you can control a country for decades and decades. And so they are attacking it. And I am grateful that there are amazing men and women, parents, non-parents, old and young, across our state that are fed up in the same way that so many Americans and so many Arizonans are fed up. And whether it's on ESAs, whether it's on parental rights, whether it's on any issue that we as conservatives believe in, we need to remind ourselves who it is that we're looking for, not just for our elected leaders, elected officials, looking for even in our business leaders, our cultural leaders, people that are willing to speak truth. Because we talk a lot about in the desert the scarcity of water and the value of water. We measure the value of gold or Bitcoin. Maybe we should start measuring the value of truth, because it got to a point in our society where truth was scarce. And even though truth is more abundant today, its value has never been higher, and I think it will continue to be so, because we need to be not just the party of truth to the point where you're willing to say it, even when it's tough. You're willing to say it in the right way. You're willing to be that beacon and that light, despite what others are saying, not when it's most convenient for you, but arguably when it's the most inconvenient for you, but the most convenient for the future of our country. That connects to education, that connects to everything else that you and I spend a lot of time thinking and talking about.
That's why I love your candidacy, George, and your friendship, because you care about, our economic issues, which have created, in many respects, huge budget deficits. But you are equally aggressive in talking about our values deficits, which require moral responsibility, just as our budget deficits require financial responsibility. And I love that you do not separate the two or ignore one against the other. Thank you, George Khalaf. GeorgeKhalaf.com. We'll be right back.